Hi everyone, it's Mia again. This is just going to be a teeny mini lesson. We need to start talking about research because your essay is a research essay. So this actually brings us back to thinking about our body paragraphs. So if you remember, in a body paragraph, it has a topic sentence, 3 pieces of support, and a concluding sentence. Now, the 3 pieces of support can be the 3 E's: examples, explanations, or evidence. This is talking specifically about evidence. Evidence are facts or statistics that we find from outside sources, not our heads, but outside sources, and we take that information and we add it into the body paragraph of our essay to help support our topic sentences. Okay, but sources are not all the same. There are good sources and there are bad sources. And when we talk about good sources, we use the word reliable. A reliable source is a source you can trust. And there are unreliable, what am I pointing at? Unreliable sources. And these are sources that you cannot trust. So when we're looking for our information, we want to use reliable sources, not unreliable sources. Okay, but first, what are sources? Where are the different places that we can find information to help us get our essay, to help us support our essays? Okay, so one of the first things that students often say is Wikipedia. Wiki is a really fast and easy way to get information, and a lot of students like to use it when they are asked to do any kind of research. Okay. Another place that students tend to talk about is the internet. The internet is a very confusing source because there are so many different kinds of information we can find on the internet. Some of it incredibly reliable, and some of it not so reliable. So we're going to talk more about this. Okay. This seems old school and a little bit traditional, but books are a wonderful source of information. That is why we have a large library at the university and the college. So you can go to the library, well, not now, but you can go to the library and read books on the topic and find information from books. Okay. A lot of people like to use news sources, and news sources can be on the internet, they can be newspaper, they can be from some magazines. So we can get the news very different places. Now, depending on the news and depending where you get your news can be reliable or also unreliable. Also, depending what country you get your news from. So countries that are famous for having unreliable news are countries like China. And countries that are famous for having more reliable news are like France. So yeah, it depends where you get your news. Okay. Another source is government websites. And and also international websites. For example, like websites like from the United Nations, the UN, or like the WHO, the World Health Organization. So there's lots of like governmental and international governmental websites that are interesting to find factual information on. Okay. Some people want to talk about social media. A lot of us get our information now from social media. So is that a reliable source or an unreliable source? What do you think? Another place that is really important is library. database. And library databases are basically an online library where you find journal articles. Okay. So these are kind of the most usual things that students think about when they think about sources. And so let's talk about how do we, okay, so if, for example, we have a news source, how do we know our news source is reliable or unreliable? So unreliable sometimes is when our source is government controlled. So if the government controls the source, it's not necessarily reliable. It's what we call propaganda. And propaganda is information that the government wants us to think so that we are not scared or we don't dislike the government. So that's unreliable. But a reliable news source is not controlled by the government. Okay. So let's talk about Wiki. Lots of people use Wikipedia, but as you get higher level and into college, you won't be allowed to use Wikipedia. And why do you think you're not allowed to use Wikipedia? Yeah, that's because Wikipedia is unreliable because it's what we call crowdsourced. And crowdsourced means that anyone can contribute to that information. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a scientist. You don't have to be a journalist. You can just be anybody in a basement with a computer. So this is unreliable. And this goes the same for social media. Social media is crowdsourced, meaning it is coming from everybody's computer. There's no one checking to see if this is good factual information or if this is lies. So if your information is crowdsourced, then it is not a reliable source. Now, if the information has been verified by experts, meaning professors, scientists, politicians, journalists, experts, researchers, people whose job it is to find this information and make sure it is correct, that is verified. Okay. All right. So another thing we need to talk about is the age of the source. So if the source is old, it is not as reliable as new information. So if I am looking up statistics about cats and the statistics about cats are from 1973, that's probably not a good source. It's too old. But a new source, like if I found something from 2018, that would be a much more reliable source because it is new information. Also on the internet, be careful if someone is selling you something. So if it's an article about how healthy chocolate is, but it is selling you chocolate, then maybe that's not so reliable. But a reliable source cannot profit from the information. Okay, so if you look in the content section of FOL under Core Week 4 Research, you will see this video and you will also see an exercise that I put there. If you open it, it's a bunch of links and all you have to do is open each link and look at the website and decide whether you think the website is reliable or unreliable. This is just an activity for you. This is not homework, but this is an important exercise as we move forward into doing some research. Okay, have a wonderful, busy Wednesday night, and I will see you tomorrow.